Welcome to the Solid Verbal.
The Solid Verbal.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
I've heard so many players say, well, I want to be happy. You want to be happy for a day? Eat a steak.
It's that woo-woo.
And now, Dan and Ty.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal, boys and girls. My name is Ty Hildenbrand. I am joined by my co-host, a gentleman, fine gentleman. I saw him yesterday. His name is Dan Rubenstein. Sir, how are you?
Ty, that intro was not good enough for me. Excuse me. Since I've been with you, that's just not going to work for you. Nobody can equal me. You know this, and I know this. I'm going to sip on this drink when I'm a little left up, Ty. When I'm a little left up, I should know how to pick up.
I have no idea what lyrics you're going with today.
It's very difficult to understand him. That is, I mean, I feel the same way. Don't get me wrong. That is from the heart. That is French Montana.
French Montana, okay.
French Montana with Unforgettable.
Unforgettable, right, okay.
Yeah. Ooh, and she tipsy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not familiar with the genre as a whole. Is it on pop
Really?
radio? Haven't heard.
It's like the number 2 song in the country right now.
I need to dive into Spotify then.
And I'm trying to remember like his dating history. There is a Kardashian involved. I don't know enough.
Well, let me tell you this. Soon to be number 3 because breaking news!
Boop, 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 boop.
New T-Swift coming out on Friday.
Yeah, I did see that. Really bad album cover. Like very bad.
Didn't see the album cover. Saw there was a hashtag. Feel like the hashtag's a little contrived.
Album comes out. What is the hashtag?
It's like hashtag reputation, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's the name of the album. And what I like about this is the French Montana Taylor Swift discussion dovetails perfectly with an audience tuning in for SEC talk.
Exactly.
I like that.
Exactly.
We know the crossover.
Content.
Yeah.
That's what we do here on the show. Well, thank you all for coming back here. It's great to have you. We've got the SEC, we've got the Pac-12, and we've got Notre Dame still to discuss here. Our plan of attack this evening, as Dan mentioned, is to talk about all things SEC. And then we're going to release a show on Sunday. We're going to record it tomorrow, but we're going to release a show on Sunday in which we will discuss all things Pac-12. And Notre Dame, maybe we'll close out our round of previews talking about Notre Dame and Oregon, 2 4-8 teams from 2016. And then, unless we decide to get crazy and post another show in between now and the start of the season, there's a pretty good chance our next show could be a week 1 preview show, Dan. Ooh. How did we get here?
That's spicy, Ty. That is spicy. I cannot wait for that sound drop that says, Dan, Ty, help. Is that what it is? I need picks of the week?
Need picks of the week, yeah. We'll help to the extent that we can. One note on the game picks, though. Mm-hmm. We have been flooded with emails, with tweets, people asking, what's the deal with the pick'em pool? As I said to you earlier today, I'm going to murder the next person who asks me a question about pick'em pools, and I mean that in as lovingly a way as possible.
Murder them with kindness.
That's right. Murder them. Thank you. Thank you for putting a nice spin on that. Mm-hmm. Here's the deal. Yahoo has a pick'em pool. It's against the spread, but they cap the league size at 100. They don't label that anywhere, of course. Otherwise, it would have been a lot easier to navigate this particular situation we're in. So what I'm trying to do is find another home for the pick'em pool. I've reached out. I've cast a net far and wide. If we can't find a home for it, I don't know what we're going to do. I've even tried building my own, but I don't think I've got enough time. So,
damn you, Oath Sports! Isn't that what Yahoo is going to change the name to? Oath? I don't know. Damn you!
I'm trying, okay? I'm really trying because it's a lot of fun. But if somebody doesn't come through for the pick'em pool, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have no options at this point, Dan. I am at the end of the rope.
I'm sorry to hear that, Ty. Yeah, we're going to figure something out. I don't know what we're going to do. Also, I think it'd be a great idea because if we're releasing SEC in the near future after recording this and Pac-12 this coming weekend, why don't you could probably fit your Notre Dame preview into an Instagram story. You could squeeze it into 10, 15 seconds.
We will give that preview, like Oregon's, the time it deserves on this podcast.
Can you take a shot and try to preview right now? Or, oh God, what a dumb way to start into an SEC preview. I was going to say, you could probably do it. Like, I'm curious about the new coordinators. Brandon Wimbush is promising.
No. Don't. No.
Okay.
Wait.
I could definitely do it.
I know you could. I've got something in the oven. It needs another day.
Okay.
Anyway, stay tuned about the pick 'em pool. Also, end of the week, the shirt sales close. So
That's
if you're
true.
interested, go to solidverbal.com/store and buy your shirts, okay?
Okay.
Final
I
warning.
understand.
Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. All of those fun places. Dan, let's talk some SEC. All right. I am fired up. I'm yelling into the mic because we're talking SEC. What are your general takeaways for the SEC in 2017, Mr. Rubenstein?
Lot of new coordinators, lot of returning quarterbacks, and the top looks the same. The bottom could shift around a little bit, and the middle should be a mess in a good way because there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding. But even just the West, if you just look at the West, the new coordinators, obviously highlighted by our dear friend Paul Rhodes taking over the defense at Arkansas.
So proud, yeah.
So you have the coaching situation in general at Ole Miss, and Phil Longo's the new offensive coordinator, comes from Sam Houston State. Chip Lindsey takes over at Auburn from Arizona State, a short trip there. Matt Canada, of course, to LSU. Todd Grantham to Mississippi State. Alabama loses both Lane Kiffin and then Steve Sarkisian, and they hire a Patriots assistant in Brian Dable.
Yep.
So I think the uncertainty surrounding scheme, surrounding quarterback play, surrounding personnel, and how that all fits with these new coaches, I think that's pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, there are no teams in the SEC that I'd consider a stinker. You know, Ole Miss could be the worst team in the SEC. I don't think they will.
Woeful. Yeah, a woeful team. Yeah.
Yeah, they could be the worst team because they've got nothing to play for, but even they have talent to go 500. Just commit that to memory, because at some point, somebody's going to have a hot take, and you're going to read about how, the ACC's better than the SEC, or is this the year the Pac-12 is finally dethroning the SEC? I don't like those articles. We should have drafted that genre of article in our fantasy things. Maybe next year.
Did you see that Jimbo Fisher was on like SportsCenter or something recently, and it was meant as a compliment, and the host was like, Florida State, to your credit, you're like a very much SEC type team. And all Jimbo Fisher does is beat SEC teams. So it was this very weird backwards compliment. Yeah, it was fun.
Anyway, the conference has very good depth. Every team in this conference could conceivably qualify for a bowl game. I don't think they all will.
No.
Obviously, Ole Miss can't by their own volition, but I think it's a very good conference, very deep conference, a lot of quality teams. Also of note, the SEC East, you don't realize it until you go through and look at every team, how ridiculously young it was a year ago. And it's going to be a recurring theme now as we talk about some of these teams like Vanderbilt, some of these teams like Missouri.
Fair. Where would you like to start?
I mean, I guess we start with Alabama.
All right. Let's get that out of the way. It's going to be very quick.
It's going to be quick. We're going to have to split hairs to really find things that we don't like. There is a ton of turnover on defense for Alabama, yet they are still odds-on favorites to win the SEC West, quite probably to win the national championship at this point. Fair to say?
It's probably a stretch just because that's a different beast, but to win the SEC, certainly, yeah. And yes, if there were a certain team that is the odds-on favorite, is absolutely Alabama.
It is hard to bet against the three dragons of Damian Harris, Bo Scarborough, and Joshua Jacobs.
Yes. And that they still have the number one overall recruit coming in at that position on top of all of that. And Najee Harris, who's probably going to play a little bit in the slot, I would assume, just to get on the field and get touches. So
it's hard to bet against an offense that has Calvin Ridley back at wide receiver, 115 targets last year. Hard to bet against a secondary that is as loaded as this one is with Minkah Fitzpatrick and Tony Brown and Ronnie Harrison. And, if you're squinting, you could say, well, they lose Cam Robinson along the line, but they have three starters back and a ton of talent coming in.
Yes, and O.J. Howard, sort of along the line, was a big deal, and at least caused a lot of teams to pay attention to yet another playmaker along the line. So that's a somewhat big deal, even though he wasn't used a ton. The big thing to me offensively is what are they going to look like with Brian Dable? How does that offense evolve after Lane Kiffin went to some more spread and mobile quarterback looks, rightfully so, with Jalen Hurts' ability? What does Jalen Hurts look like with the summer of perhaps getting into a better rhythm and becoming more accurate, as we saw he struggled with the better defenses down the stretch for Alabama? And then what type of role, if any, does the true freshman, who has certainly impressed thus far in spring and summer, whatever, Tua Tagovailoa for Alabama, the quarterback, the smaller lefty from Hawaii, who's pretty interesting. What role does he play? Because defensively, you sort of know what you're getting. No. It's the same defensive coaching staff mostly. Certainly the same defensive coordinator, Jeremy Pruitt. They have 5 stars everywhere up front, even though they're replacing a ton. And replacing Jonathan Allen is, as we talked about with Cole Kubelik, a not insignificant deal. He was that versatile and that dangerous. But yeah, Dion Hamilton comes back from injury, and as you mentioned, the guys in the secondary are going to be huge, and they're deep with talent. So it's a matter of weathering their schedule. Florida State, obviously, in week 1, they go to A&M, and we don't fully know what to expect from that A&M offense. They go to Mississippi State, which is, I would argue, one of the more intriguing, interesting, unknown quantities offensively because of the potential of Nick Fitzgerald. And they go to Auburn, another one of those teams that sort of fits in with that, but with a higher talent level. So how they're able to weather, but there's no reason to say, well, this is a loss and this is a loss on their schedule, most likely. There just isn't that game.
Yeah, what's interesting about it, too, defensively, you talk about Jonathan Allen, but also Dalvin Tomlinson, Reuben Foster, Ryan Anderson, Tim Williams. That's a lot of combined tackles for loss, Dan. It's a lot of combined sacks that is moving on either to the next level or elsewhere. The fact that Alabama is still the odds-on favorite to win the SEC, and again, probably the national championship at this point in late August, that's really telling you something about the team that Nick Saban's built, the talent that's coming in, so on and so forth. The defense is a bit of an open question mark, but I think we're willing to grant Nick Saban a rite of passage there, if only because they've been so good defensively, since he's gotten there. I will go back to the Brian Dable offense for a second. Paul Feinbaum called him a failed offensive coordinator.
So he must be good.
He went on ESPN. He talked about him being a failure. He does have a lot of experience with Bill Belichick. He worked with Saban in the 90s as a grad assistant at Michigan State. Again, this is an area where we gloss over it. Typically, we'll give Saban the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not sure we fully know what that offense is going to look like until we see it out there against Florida State. So that bit of an open question to me. Otherwise, I echo a lot of the same stuff. Tough schedule. If they can weather it, they'll be fine. Alabama's one of my playoff teams at this point.
Yeah, and I think Mike Locksley has a coordinator title. So there's that too. And the only other thing I'll say about Alabama when you look at their schedule is there's not really a back-to-back that's terribly worrisome with the better teams on their schedule. But if you want to look at a letdown, just pure letdown spot, which doesn't really happen with Nick Saban in Alabama, but if in a hypothetical world we were thinking that's a possibility, they go to Mississippi State, they go to Starkville the week after the LSU game at home. So there's a trick sandwich in there, Ty.
Trick
Nick
sandwich.
Fitzgerald turns out to be very good.
All right, let's go to Auburn.
Yeah.
Auburn or LSU, depending on where you look. Those are the teams that most of the prognosticators, if you will, seem to think represent the next tier in the SEC. Auburn went 8-5 last year. They started 1-2. They finished 1-3. They played pretty well in the middle. I like their stable of running backs with Cameron Petway, Kerryon Johnson, Cam Martin, another three-headed monster, right?
Yeah.
I like their line. They are replacing 2 starters, but they got a grad transfer from Florida State and another transfer from Jacksonville State who just happened to be a 2-time All-American at the FCS level.
Yep.
So they're going to have a run game. What I don't like about Auburn is that both Montravius Adams and Carl Lawson are both gone. 13.5 sacks walking out the door. Ton of potential in the guys stepping up. I'm real excited about Derek Brown. I think they're going to be just fine. It's just an open question when to lose 2 studs like that, right?
Sure.
Another question for me is Jarett Stidham. Everyone's assuming that Jarett Stidham's going to come in and be very good. He was very good in limited action at Baylor before he decided to transfer. But what is he going to give us? He's still a bit young. He's still a bit unproven. There are options out wide. But again, open question mark, new quarterback. How will Gus Malzahn decide to use Jarett Stidham?
It's a reasonable question. I think it's more of a Chip Lindsey thing, as it appears that Gus Malzahn will be delegating a little bit more, if that's the right word. Chip Lindsey has said that they're going to be working in Baylor-type route trees and plays and RPO-type stuff for Auburn to keep Jarett Stidham comfortable, which seems to make a lot of sense. He's surrounded by a ton of offensive skill talent. As you said, I'm not worried about that line, even though they are replacing a couple pieces. I think they're going to be all right under our good pal, Herpan.
Yeah.
And then defensively, I think you nailed it. They have experienced rotation guys that came in. There's talent that's young that should develop. We assume so. The linebacking core is pretty good. They've got some experienced playmakers there. And then the back of that defense, there's obviously a couple big losses, but they've stocked the talent well in Auburn on the Plains, and I think guys are going to come in and be pretty good against what should be a pretty good roster of quarterbacks on this schedule, and we don't know what to expect out of Clemson certainly early on in the season, and that's a road spot, so we'll learn a lot about both of those teams just in terms of where they are early. They have LSU and Arkansas both on the road back-to-back, and it looks like they have A&M on the road and then Georgia at home back-to-back, and then they host Alabama. So it's a landmine of a schedule. It is everywhere you look on this Auburn schedule, but the combination of good offensive coaches, what we think will be at least a good quarterback, right? From what he showed.
He should be. He was pretty good in the limited action that we saw him over at Baylor.
What we see in Jarett Stidham, I think, and this is the collective we probably, is what Nebraska fans think Tanner Lee will be. And only Nebraska fans. I'm sorry, I shouldn't antagonize you.
In fairness, Nebraska has a little bit more data to go on with Tanner Lee.
That's true. You look at those Manning passing numbers.
That's right.
Woo! Those camp numbers. Anyway,
9-3
preview.
feels like the right prediction to me. If you told me 10-2, I could believe it. If you told me 11-1, if I was feeling really generous, maybe I could believe that. 12-0 is too much. Way too much. With those two back-to-backs, I think their ceiling is 10-2 because of what we saw when Sean White went down last year, and hopefully Sean White is full strength in the backup role, that a wounded Auburn doesn't have a ton of options if the quarterback goes down. And you know what? A healthy Sean White with this offense might be really good too if Jarett Stidham goes down. But I'm a little bit concerned. I think the ceiling is 10-2, 9-3, 10-2 is where I stand. And they're going to be a really good team when they're operating. I am probably the most excited to see Clemson against Auburn.
That's going to be so
any
fun.
of the early games. Florida State, Alabama is interesting in its own right. As Kirk Herbstreit said, I think right before we went on the air here, over at ESPN, it's kind of like a national championship game in week one. I don't disagree. It's a great game. I am more excited almost for Clemson and Auburn because both teams have a fair amount of open questions. Both teams should be pretty solid. I think that's going to be an outstanding game. I'm excited to see that game.
I agree.
The other team in the SEC West, again, in that second tier, if you want to call it that, LSU. LSU is in a very interesting spot this year. Was there any doubt that Coach O wanted this job more than anybody else?
No, I don't think there was any morsel of this job that Coach O was not willing to scrounge up.
And you know what? And I talked about this. I talked about this after the live show with a few of the guys who were there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of value sometimes in hiring the guy that wants the job the most. That's kind of what Notre Dame did with Brian Kelly. And you might love him, you might hate him, you might make fun of him, but the program is absolutely in a better place now than it was when he took over. If Orgeron could take LSU to the next level, hey, that's like national championship quality, Dan. The talent's there. The consistency on offense hasn't been there.
Right.
Which leads me to my real question. Are you a Matt Canada believer in what he can bring to the table at LSU?
Mostly, yes. The track record is somewhat there. He did a really good job with pieces that he didn't necessarily develop and recruit into last year, which is a good sign that without much time to sort of recruit to a specific style, he was very multiple at Pitt last year. We saw them run a lot of power with James Conner, but at the same time, Nate Peterman was able to spread the ball around pretty nicely to playmakers who aren't always traditional, big, hulking pro-style guys. And LSU is built to be at least multiple with what they've recruited. My concern is the obvious one, and Danny Etling, and a very definitive ceiling, I would say. And now that Brandon Harris is gone, the parachute it's got a couple holes in it. He's not playing with as robust a net beneath him. I'm a little bit mixed on offensive skill, which is to say, I love Darius Geis.
No, of course,
a whole bunch.
Yeah.
But the receiving core is pretty green. Couple big losses, exhausting eligibility, but all in all, if the offense is creative enough, they don't need to score 35 to win with the defense that LSU is going to be fielding. So I think it could be a good step forward year for the offense and getting creative and shifts and motions and misdirection and sort of keeping defenses on their heels. It's hard to screw up when you have decent offensive line talent in Darius Geis. It just is.
How do you feel about the Geis is right?
It's fine.
Poltergeist.
Is that a positive message?
I don't know. He's ghosting people. They can't.
Okay.
They can't tackle him.
Yeah. Swiss Army guys. I don't know.
Swiss Army.
It's a stretch.
That's better.
Yeah. We'll get back to it.
I think there's potential there. 1,387 yards and 15 touchdowns last year, that is on a team that also featured Leonard Fournette.
Yeah.
So he had a pretty good year.
He was prime candidate. I don't think we drafted this in our Fantasy Things draft, but we had as an option, the backup might be even better than the starter. And that you can see, if we had drafted that, you might be getting points with Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Last year, Sam Darnold would have turned out to be correct.
Sure.
But defensively, LSU is in a wonderful spot. I have written down in my notes, is their defensive line talent, from a pure talent, depth, experience, whatever, it's scary big time.
Now, there is some turnover along the line and in the secondary. They're going to need to rely on a few younger guys, but you're right. Everyone's a blue chip recruit.
On my notes, I have LSU scary big time defensive line talent. And even though, like I'm sure you know, they did lose a couple of big dudes, but they've recruited so well up front, and depending on who gets cleared and who is able to play this season, they should have dudes aplenty.
It is a brutal road schedule, though.
It is. It's
at Mississippi State, at Florida, at Ole Miss, which you never know with Ole Miss, at Bama, at Tennessee, and then there is a home game against Auburn right after Florida, which obviously not a road tilt, but
right.
Florida, Auburn, that's body blow potential right there.
I'm looking, and I think the schedule that I have in front of me is correct. What their, November looks like. Do you see this, Ty?
Yeah.
At Alabama, Arkansas, at Tennessee, and A&M in consecutive weeks. Ooh. Spicy. That's a spicy meatball, and that is, if you can picture it in your head, everybody listening at home or mowing the lawn or driving your car, hey, 10-2, by the way. Picture Ed Orgeron, shoeless, sockless, bare feet, with like 100 yards of flaming hot coals in front of him.
Yeah.
And that's what that schedule is. God, coach. Yeah.
All right. So
that's what the schedule is.
You're saying 10-2.
I think it's a 9-3 year for LSU.
Yeah. 9-3 feels about right to me.
Yeah.
Tough schedule. Okay.
But it's the ceiling is pretty high.
We got to move quick here through the next half of the SEC West. Let's go to Arkansas. The last 3 seasons for Brett Bielema, he's 22-17. I think the eye-opener a year ago was that Arkansas was not that great at running the football, which is contrary to Bielema's entire brand. They ripped off some big plays, but they were not consistent on the ground. And when Bielema's bread and butter is not as efficient, not as domineering as you would expect it to be, I think that's a bit of an issue.
And Brett Bielema loves his bread and butter.
Oh my God, yeah, of course. I love the Allen Whaley duo in the backfield.
Yeah.
This year, the depth isn't great. Yeah, the line's young. It's experienced. Okay, I'll give you all that. But if they can't run, if that doesn't get any better, I got to ask the question where it's all going in Fayetteville. Is that a fair question?
It is. I'm trying to remember, and they talked about it on the full cast, our friends Spencer, Ryan, and Jason. Brett Bielema's record in the SEC, his conference record, is not dramatically, but it's below 500. And it's just what the patience is going to be like. Obviously, last year they were particularly, and you mentioned the short yardage on offense, but they were atrocious defensively, tackling in the open field. And Paul Rhodes takes over and has a history of running good defenses. The secondary wasn't bad against the pass last year, which is a good sign. On defense, they look like there's experience, and if that's a good thing, then they've got it. If the experience of the guys coming back is good, it's there. They're gonna need to get better along the linebacking core, and the line is only okay. I think offensively you nailed it, but schedule isn't great. Not great.
And maybe
not great.
Maybe like 40 yards of hot coals.
Yeah.
For Arkansas. I'm looking at TCU.
Who's better suited for hot coals, Ed Orgeron or Brett Bielema? It has to be Orgeron, right?
It's definitely got to be. Orgeron,
he has to have more
Orgeron
calluses.
Strikes me as the kind of guy who you could smash a bat over his head and he wouldn't feel it, but he'd cry for a paper cut.
Yeah. So who do they have? Who's on the slate?
Some of the highlights for me: TCU, Texas A&M. They go to Bama, home against Auburn, at LSU. Those are the big ones. And you've got some other tweeners in there. At South Carolina, for a team like Arkansas, I could see that being tricky if South Carolina improves.
If Jake Bentley keeps looking good, yeah.
At Ole Miss, you just don't know what to expect from Ole Miss this year. They've got a home game against Mississippi State, which, again, a great unknown. If the Hogs were to start 2-4, I would not at all be surprised. It's a tough schedule. To me, this feels like a 7-5 team.
That's pretty nice of you. I don't know if they're getting past 6-6. They feel like the ultimate, well, you got to take the bad with the good. And everything just feels like it's in such extremes. I'm fairly confident that Paul Rhodes is increasing or improving this defense. But beyond that, I like Austin Allen, and he certainly stood in because of a bad offensive line performance last year and took a bunch of hits and was still able to be relatively productive. His ceiling isn't super high. I love a good ceiling, Ty, as you've noticed. But sure. I like Austin Allen. I think he's pretty good. And all things considered, if the offensive line improves, he has some weapons to play with. And I'm worried about the line play. I'm worried about the line of scrimmage with the Brett Bielema team. And that's weird, especially considering how good they were defensively a couple years ago. I just think they're going to get in their own way too much. And it's like they almost feel like not just a 6-6 team, Ty, like the most 6-6 team in America.
Very, very average.
The most wild card. 1 week they win a game against LSU. The next week they lose to South Carolina.
We're in agreement then. Both lines, really. Offensively, they're young. They've got experience, but they're young, and they need to get better because running was an issue last year.
Yeah.
And then defensively, 5 of 6 defensive linemen are gone. A lot of potential among those who return, which is, I think, a source of optimism. But they're also installing a 3-4, which is a little bit of a different look. Makes sense for them because they're a little bit deeper at linebacker. But yeah, I mean, there's some moving pieces there that doesn't exactly instill confidence. So 7-5 ceiling team, maybe.
Yeah, they need to take 3 leaps and or bounds to get to 7-5, 8-4. Yeah.
Texas A&M, Dan. Here's what they lose. They lose Trevor Knight, 6 of 7 top wide receivers, Avery Genesee, their stud left tackle. They lose a good chunk of their depth in their front 7, including Myles Garrett and Deshaun Hall.
Not great.
Looks like they're going to start Nick Starkel, the redshirt freshman. Everything I've read says that he's got an edge over Jake Hubenak.
He's like the bigger, sort of can take hits and has a big arm kind of guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So whoever plays at quarterback, you've got Christian Kirk, you've got Travion Williams.
Ty, I'm gonna stop you right there.
Yeah.
Because I have a dude alert. Travion Williams is so good.
He's the truth.
He is the complete truth, and he has lost a little bit in a conference with a pretty good set of running backs. Travion Williams was such a home run hitter last year, and they needed him to be. He's so fun. He's so quick. He gets to the edge in an almost mean way, Ty. I really like Travion Williams, and that's not discounting Nick Chubb or Darius Geis or anybody else in this conference. He's so fun, and he is such a dude.
1,057 yards last year, 6.8 per carry.
Yes.
He's behind a line that's young, but they've got experience. I would expect him to have another good year, regardless of who's playing quarterback. On the defensive side of the ball, they've got a senior-heavy secondary, and they're going to need it because it needs to offset a ton of turnover in the front seven.
And it wasn't fully the secondary's fault last year. They gave up so much on the ground, and it was almost as if they just were always set with pass rushers, and they could never really set a consistent edge. Myles Garrett was obviously great. I mean, their ends were really good, but for whatever reason, they just allowed so much on the ground. And that's if they can shore at least that up, then they become interesting. I'm still worried about Nick Starkel or whoever ends up starting at quarterback, just because the attrition is brutal, losing Kyle Allen and Kyler Murray. But this is the most wild card.
Yep,
they've gone 8-5 the past 3 years.
I agree.
Because I like a lot of the pieces on defense. Coming in, they've recruited really well. I like the beef inside on the line. I really like their safeties. Armani Watts is a legitimate star, all-conference, if not all-American type talent, but they need so much in the way of fundamentals on defense and just consistency from quarterback. Because Trevor Knight was not that good. He was not the answer.
No. And look, the schedule sucks for everyone in the SEC West.
Yeah.
Let's just assume that much. A&M opens up at the Rose Bowl against UCLA.
Yeah.
Which will be an interesting bellwether for both of those schools. Good game right away. Nice measuring stick. I think that's what we look for in week one. And then between October and the end of the year, listen to this one.
Okay.
Bama at Florida, Mississippi State, Auburn, New Mexico in there just for fun. And then at Ole Miss, at LSU.
Yeah.
That's a murderer's row.
Well, it's a wounder's row.
Wounder's row. Okay, it's a gauntlet.
Yeah. Okay, Kevin Sumlin, any better at the Coles than Ed Orgeron?
I don't think
so. Yeah,
I think it's pain tolerance. I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
All right. I say 7-5.
Well, they win a bowl game, they go 8-5.
Yeah.
4 straight years. Yeah, okay. I'm with you. 7-5.
Let's go to Ole Miss. Perhaps you haven't heard this. We've got breaking news! We haven't talked about it at all, but Hugh Freeze was fired.
Yeah, or resigned under grave pressure. Yes.
Resigned, whatever.
Yeah, he was fired.
Not just that, but there are some self-imposed sanctions, which means they're not going to play in a bowl game no matter what happens this year, which, sets up an interesting circumstance for 18 to 22-year-old football players.
Yeah.
How emotionally, how mentally invested will they be in this season? I thought a lot about how high I've been personally on Ole Miss over the years. Mm-hmm. And I want to confirm with you that I am not responsible for any of this.
Can neither confirm nor deny, Ty. We've yet to see all of the call logs. Let's see if you appear.
The front seven's got talent.
Yeah. But
minimal depth. The secondary has depth, but only a few proven pieces.
They're not land sharks anymore, Ty.
No, they're not. The offense has talent. The highlight, I think, is clearly Shea Patterson. The rest is pretty much to be determined.
Yes, I think that's all correct. I think the skill position, especially receiver, is pretty promising. They returned a number of quality pass catchers that could form a pretty good tandem with Shea Patterson. The offensive line isn't bad. But yeah, defensively is where they seem to take a step back because it always seemed like they were rotating in somebody new that was high quality. Yeah. The land sharks were such a threat to everybody. I don't care who. Up front, they had first-round talent at both along the defensive line and in the linebacking core, and it's just not there. They've taken some hits talent-wise. The schedule actually, Ty, if there is a schedule that you're like, well, all right. I mean, they do have, it appears, Alabama and Auburn on the road in consecutive weeks.
Yeah, not great.
But other than that, I think their only other significant road game is they're at Mississippi State. The Egg Bowl's on the road, right?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, they have Kentucky, who should be pretty good. But LSU is at home. Everything's really buffered by other teams. It's Texas A&M's at home. Scheduled for being in the SEC West is actually fine.
Here's my prediction.
Matter.
Here's my prediction for Ole Miss. I'm not going to predict wins and losses. I think it's almost impossible. My prediction is that they're going to beat someone like Arkansas by 28, but lose at the gun to Vandy. Or maybe a team that they've got more talent than. I mean, it's going to be that kind of year, up and down.
Yeah, here's the case for Ole Miss is a new offensive coordinator in Phil Longo, who was at Sam Houston State, and they put up video game numbers. They have a new defensive coordinator who was there before, and Wesley McGriff. He takes over, and the coaching staff, other than Hugh Freeze, is pretty much intact. New faces, so there's an unexpected factor with Ole Miss, with Phil Longo and Shea Patterson, and good receivers that... Yeah, I think you're right. They could win a 34-31 type game against somebody that is in a better position to win more games. So I'm going to go. I still think they're around a 5-7 team, and they wouldn't be in a bowl game anyway. But there will be fun moments just because Shea Patterson does have that much talent.
And our final team in the SEC West, the other Mississippi team, Mississippi State. Now.
How dare you?
They've got
Mississippi.
I'm sorry. I mean no disrespect to the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
They've got Nick Fitzgerald at quarterback. He is 6'5", 230. He's a Mack truck back there. Fred Ross is gone. The rest of the wide receiving core is back.
Shout out to the Freducation.
That's right. The line has to replace 3 starters. I feel very confident that Nick Fitzgerald will take it upon himself to do some damage in the SEC and find ways to win games for Mississippi State. I'm not sure what their ceiling is. It might only be a 6-6 team this year because it's a tough schedule. But I am oddly excited to see what they can put out in the field this year.
Yeah, they're a little bit of a mystery just because they recruited a lot of junior college guys who are going to help out with positional needs on both offense and defense, but particularly defense, where they took a definitive step back. And shout out Dan Mullen, his ability to hire defensive coordinators. It's Manny Diaz, Jeff Collins, and Peter Sermon didn't work out and made his way to Louisville, but Todd Grantham makes his way to what feels like his 7th team in 3 years.
A straight up trade at the deadline. Peter Sermon to Louisville or Louisville, depending on your point of view.
Yeah.
In exchange for Todd Grantham.
They've recruited really well up front. They have legitimate blue chip star power up front, which is something you always like to see in the second person. In the back end, it's sort of an unknown quality because of the JC guys coming in. They were only okay last year. Need to improve back there, especially since quarterback play will be better this year. Schedule's rough.
Yeah.
Schedule's rough, but they are, for pure football reasons and pure Nick Fitzgerald reasons, one of the teams, especially with how Fitzgerald looked. I think he averaged like 9 yards per carry on non-sack rushing plays, something like that. Bill C had that number. If he is completing 60% of his passes, if he improves to that mark, they become a pretty dangerous team because he is a prototypical Mullen quarterback. The offensive coordinators have done a good job there. They have more excitement, but they still feel like a 2018 team. But
I agree. Yeah,
I think the trajectory is upward right now. It's cool.
Yeah, Nick Fitzgerald is just a really good fit for what Dan Mullen wants to do.
Yeah. What's the record you see?
6-6, 5-7,
7-5 for me.
Okay. Yeah,
it's a brutal schedule. They have
tough schedule.
It's LSU and then road games against Georgia and Auburn. All those are 3 straight weeks. They host Alabama, which is, all things considered, the way you want it. And they host Ole Miss, as we mentioned, in the Egg Bowl.
While we're catching our breath from talking about all things Mississippi college football, I want to talk to you about finding a shirt that fits.
I think that transition fits, Ty. Nice and tidy.
Thank you. It's crisp.
Yes, it is.
Finding a dress shirt can be hard. Finding one that fits can be harder.
Yeah.
Luckily, ordering a custom fit shirt's never been easier thanks to our friends over at
Proper Cloth.
Proper Cloth. At propercloth.com, you can easily create a custom shirt size in mere seconds. You got to answer a 10-question quiz. You don't even need a measuring tape. It's foolproof. They've got over 500 fabric styles to choose from, including premium Italian and Japanese fabrics, as well as business and casual. All kinds of styles. Starts at just $85, and they guarantee a perfect fit. So if you get it, it doesn't fit, they'll remake it for free. GQ loves them. The Googles love them. They're the future of shirts. Right now, if you are interested, and there's no reason you shouldn't be, go to propercloth.com/solid, SOLID. Enter the gift code SOLID to get $20 off your first shirt, Dan. propercloth.com/solid. They guarantee a perfect fit.
Listen, it fits me perfectly. I can only attest to that. Everybody's shaped differently. One of those, it was 10 questions, right?
Yeah.
First question, and I really like this. First question, do you coach at the University of Arkansas? Are you the head coach?
It's a legit question.
I said no. Shirt fits me perfectly.
Boom.
You do the math, Ty.
Our second presenting sponsor this evening.
Who could it be?
Remember our good friends over at Harry's, Dan? It's been a while since we talked about Harry's, but you saw me yesterday because we did video for the SB Nation College Football Preview Show.
Yes, we did.
Did you see how smooth my face was looking yesterday?
Ty, the lights were reflecting.
Very
Studio
few
lights.
Imperfections, no nicks, no scratches, no.
You take care of yourself.
Yeah, you got to take care of yourself. That's why you use Harry's. Get it nice and smooth, Dan. They are so confident at Harry's that you're going to love their blades that they will give you a free trial set. All you got to do is pay for shipping. The trial set includes a weighted ergonomic razor handle.
It feels great.
5 precision-engineered blades with a lubricating strip and trimmer blade, rich, lathering shave gel, and a travel blade cover. It's a $13 value. They will give it to you absolutely free. Again, you just got to cover the shipping. Stop messing around here. Get started. Shave with Harry's today. Claim your free trial.
Yep.
Again, $13 value for free. Just pay for the shipping. All you got to do is go to harrys.com/solid. HARRYS.com/solid, Dan.
I use it on my neck since I sort of I trim the beard and keep the scruff look. It works so nicely. My neck is smooth. Jody with an eye loves it. Kate keeps emailing me and telling me how great my neck looks. I thought that was weird. I thought that was strange, Ty. I'm with you. But here we are, and I cannot recommend Harry's enough. I'll use it. Will you use Harry's betwixt your eyebrows? Do you have to do that? Is there a threat of unibrowing?
Not much of a threat. On occasion, you got to clean it up, though.
You'll use your Harry's, right?
I don't use the Harry's for that.
Oh, what do you use? Are you tweezing?
No, I'm not tweezing. My God.
Come on, Ty.
No, the stakes are too high for the tweeze, Dan.
So what are you doing? What's your strat?
I can't fly a Harry's up there. That's like shaving with a jumbo jet, man. You got to use one of those little teensy electronic ones.
What I did was the Harry's simulator software to really get steady with it. Yeah.
Okay. I led off all things SEC West. Why don't you talk to me about the SEC East, Dan? Where does your heart take you when you think SEC East?
Georgia. Coming to Georgia. Okay, let's talk about Georgia.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a team that returns a ton on defense. How about that, Ty? Yeah. They were a mess offensively, and starting a true freshman quarterback, as blue chippy as he was in Jacob Eason, there were going to be some hiccups. I didn't anticipate this much. I still think Georgia is the favorite to win the East, but I still have questions about the direction of the offense. So Georgia's schedule is pretty good. They have App State to open, which is tricky. They go to, it's a non-Power 5 team the next week. I'm fairly certain, right, Ty?
How dare you?
But no, with how much they return on defense, and Nick Chubb is back, Jacob Eason, we assume, will improve, but they're working in rotation guys and contributors out wide. The offensive line has pieces, but still not fully confident in their ability with how much Jacob Eason was kind of on the run last year. I like the talent level. I'm unsure about the coaching level at this point, Ty.
Okay.
But yet I still feel like because of what they are up against and schedule-wise, I know they go to Tennessee. Florida's obviously a neutral site game. They cross over against Auburn and Georgia Tech, not SEC-wise, but that's still on the road. It's fine. The defense to me is probably the single best thing about the SEC East. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. You're
Okay.
not wrong. And you're not wrong to have a few questions about the offense, because my question's about the line.
Yeah.
Last year, the line was not all that great.
Right.
And now
They
this
still
year,
lost to Vandy last year.
and they still lost,
did.
still lost to Vandy. This year, they are replacing both tackles and their center. And the line already was a liability a year ago. So, they might have talent, and Lord knows they've been doing a really good job in the recruiting trail. But a problem up front against some of these fronts in the SEC is not optimal.
Should they be worried? And I don't have what App State returns in front of me, but if there is a week in which you really don't have a good sense for where you are as a team and how to call plays and how to work in rotations, it's always week 1. The biggest improvement tends to come between week 1 and 2. They have App State week 1, granted, at home. What chance do you give? I don't have a point spread in front of me, but given how great App State was on defense last year and how tricky their offense can be at times, they're going to be outclassed by Georgia. Is there a 20% chance App State could win that game?
25, 30% chance.
Okay.
I mean, it's out there. App State's
Yeah.
a good team. I think you're always...
We'll talk about it more next week.
You're always a little higher on App State than I am, but...
Yeah, that's true. I love me some Satterfield.
It's out there. What happens if Georgia goes 7-5 this year? How do you think Georgia fans would feel about Kirby Smart?
That seat is warming.
Because they've done really well on the recruiting trail, but 7-5 is 7-5.
7-5 is 7-5. They win an 8th game. That makes it a little bit better in bowl season. If they go 7-5 this year and they win any fewer than 9 games in 2018, I think it becomes a problem, fair or not.
All right, where are we going next?
Let's go to Florida.
Florida!
Yeah. I have news that both you and I have been suspended for the game against Michigan. I didn't want to tell you this on the air, but sometimes you just have to make that sacrifice.
So let me jump in here. I don't want to steal your thunder. Mm-hmm. The Zai-Era, Dan.
Oh yeah,
The
You ready?
Zai-Era. The Zai-Era is now in Gainesville.
Yeah, maybe the backup Zai-Era, but yes.
Quick history for new listeners. I have been in on Malik Zai-Era since when he was a wee pup back in Kettering, Ohio. Mm-hmm. Him coming over as a grad transfer is a big deal for Florida. You should know that if you listen to this show, because the human body can only take so much. Treon Harris and Austin Appleby and Luke Del Rio and Lord knows whoever the hell else they've been trying to play quarterback in Gainesville. The question, as you alluded, is whether or not it's going to be the Zai-Era at starting quarterback or Zai-Era at backup quarterback, because it could be Felipe Franks.
I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up winning,
Zai-Era has not been the same player since his injury back in 2015. He just hasn't. And it's not because of lingering effects from the injury. Maybe it was just the situation at Notre Dame broke him. I don't know.
Right.
It was a weird time for us all. But in limited action last year, he was not the same player. Maybe the Texas game where everyone was high and mighty on Malik Zai-Era was a bit of a mirage. I don't know. We will find out if he plays. We will see. But right now, it remains an open item whether or not Zai-Era is going to launch the Zai-Era as starting quarterback in week 1 for Florida.
I think I still like Doug Nussmeier, the offensive coordinator, who's had sort of an up and down career as he's gone different places. He was very good at Washington, not great at Michigan, whatever. I like pieces for Florida. I think CeCe Jefferson is a complete and absolute dude. I am ready to put my foot down. I've already used my dude alert up, but he is somebody that didn't start last year but played a ton, and when he was in there, he was pretty dominant. They don't return a lot on defense, though. They've got a couple interesting guys in the back, but they lost 2 great corners, obviously, and a really good linebacker and a ton along the defensive line. But they've recruited well enough offensively. It's just what do they look like? What is their identity? Who's throwing passes? And maybe there's a comparison between Malik Zai-Era and Everett Golson with the sort of grad transfer. But Everett Golson was fine at times for Notre Dame and had a ton of reps for the Irish before transferring to Florida State. Whereas the phrase you use, limited action, is quite appropriate because it's not like Malik Zai-Era was up and down as he was finding his way. No, he didn't play that much.
He didn't. He really didn't.
And so to assume that he's going to get the starting role is kind of a leap, and I don't know if he will. Felipe Franks was recruited by this staff. He came in raw, but has a huge arm. I don't know if he's going to start, but he certainly gives them an option that Austin Appleby and Luke Del Rio do not physically. Yeah. So I'm curious to see what they look like. Schedule-wise, obviously they have Michigan, and they're going to be shorthanded. I know Antonio Callaway was suspended again, their best receiver. And rest of the schedule-wise, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, as SEC schedules go,
yeah,
it's good because they miss both Alabama and Auburn.
And they get LSU at home.
And they get LSU.
Again,
they only have 3 true road games.
Yeah.
So it's a decent road schedule. The problem really is the non-conference. They supplement what looks like a manageable SEC schedule, again, relatively speaking. Mm-hmm. They supplement it with Michigan and Florida State in the non-conference, which is not easy by any stretch.
Florida not leaving to play true road games. Huh. You never thought you'd live to see the day.
You'd see it all, yeah.
Ah, man. Here is the name, though, Ty. Jim McElwain, I would posit, has been barefoot a lot. And if we're climbing across hot coals, his stretch is not nearly as long as LSU's. But if there is somebody better suited, you saw how his face responded.
He was charred.
Yeah,
in his introductory press conference. Yeah.
I think he could withstand some heat to the feet.
He could have a genetic disposition. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So just pay attention to what I don't know.
All right, let's go to Tennessee.
All right, let's do that.
Tennessee, as everyone knows, they are the defending champions of life.
Dominant.
Butch Jones, 9-4. 9-4 is not bad, right?
No, especially since the problem was... Yeah, it's not bad. They started out last season, 5-0, and then it's that up and down and up where you just lose faith and you forget that they did put up, starting in November when the schedule opened up a little more, they really beat up offensively on mediocre teams, which is what good teams do. And Josh Dobbs put up a ton of yards. They had big-time receivers. They had the 2 big running backs. Alvin Kamara broke out. So, I mean, they lose Mike DeBoard, who's now at Indiana. And they bring in the Miami coach, right? The guy who took over when Al Golden was let go. Larry Scott takes over the offense. So
just so we're clear, not the Pac-12 commissioner.
Correct. Not Larry Scott, Pac-12 commissioner.
Okay.
I don't believe they've named a quarterback yet. It's between an upperclassman, Quentin Dormady, who is super promising, and Jarek Guarantano, who's more of a dual threat, but also looks like he could be pretty electric if placed in the correct positions. I'm concerned about the losses on defense at every level. That's the problem. They were really built to make that 9-10 win run last year. And now there's just so many questions. And offensively, I like what they've recruited. They return a good amount, but I don't know. I don't know about this Tennessee team. Too many questions for me.
Yeah, the strength of the defense is probably at linebacker, but there are questions up front now that Derek Barnett and some other guys are gone. And then there's some turnover in the secondary. And it's probably not as big of an issue since they do have options back there, but...
I like Todd Kelly a lot, yeah.
Yeah, keep your eyes on cornerback. That could really be a concern in the secondary for the Vols and Bob Shoop. I'm okay with Tennessee. I think offensively...
And you like Bob Shoop.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're fine. I just don't think they're as fine as Tennessee fans want them to be. And I think that's going to be a problem, especially for Butch Jones, because he may not be fully secure in his position, and I think he knows it.
Right.
I think that's the real concern. What happens if he really starts feeling the pressure? What kind of bugaboos will he find himself in?
Bugaboo!
I don't know. I don't know what to expect from Tennessee this year. I am worried about the defense as well because of the turnover. I think they beat Georgia Tech in week 1, but I think they lose to Florida.
That's also in the big stadium, right? That's not at Georgia Tech. That's in Mercedes-Benz Labor Day. Yeah.
I think they beat Georgia Tech in week 1, but I think they lose to Florida. I think they lose to Georgia. I think they lose at Alabama against LSU. Wouldn't surprise me to see a letdown or a look ahead in there, maybe against South Carolina or Missouri. I'm going to go 7-5. I don't know if it's enough for Butch Jones to keep his job, but 7-5 is where it's at for me.
Why are you automatically assuming Florida is a win. I know it's at Florida. It's in Gainesville. But they're two teams with quarterback questions, with a lot of big defensive losses. Tennessee's offense should look a little bit different.
True.
Different quarterback, different coordinator.
No, it's a fair question. I feel better about Florida's defense as a whole.
Okay.
And their ability to rebound because they have
matchup.
They have been rock solid defensively, even despite some of the losses that they're experiencing.
Yeah, 7-5, 8-4 feels pretty appropriate considering the questions and the schedule, and it's just going to take some time, I think, for whoever comes in at quarterback to get used to the pace of play.
Okay, let's go to Missouri.
Let's do it.
Missouri also part of the 4-8 club last year, Dan.
Yeah, that's true. And completely reversed themselves from going from, wow, dominant defense that just dominating on defense, but the offense just isn't doing them any favors, to, the offense is pretty good. Defense got real bad.
Defense was a disaster a year ago.
Yeah.
Bill Connolly described it as plugging one leak and then having another pop up.
Mm-hmm.
The line has Terry Beckner Jr. back.
Yes.
That's good. And Marcel Fraser, he had 7.5 sacks. Mm-hmm. The line, though, still something of a mystery. And corner's even more of a mystery. Talent, but none of it is really all that proven.
Oh, your voice is going up again.
Raising the register. So again, a story of youth getting older on offense. Pretty much the entire offense is back. So I think we'll see them take a step forward. But defensively, I just don't know where to go. I really don't know where to go there.
Might be a good thing, Ty. The fact that they're so new defensively from where they were last year. Working some new players, get people used to the sort of second year of the system. You know, they do miss Craig Kulangowski, who was such a good defensive line coach for them. I think they're going to improve. I think they're going to make a bowl game. Right. I like Drew Lock a good amount, Ty.
Me too.
How about that?
Me too. I'm with you.
I like his receivers a ton. The guy Jamon Moore. Really good. Really, really good. Schedule, totally fine.
Totally workable.
If not better than totally fine. Missouri State to open the season up. Idaho at UConn. Watch out for Rhett Lashley. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's totally good. Their road games in the SEC at Kentucky, at Georgia, at Vandy, at Arkansas.
Okay.
Fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's bowl worthy.
All right. Let's go to South Carolina, Dan.
Okay.
6-7 last year in Will Muschamp's first year.
Ahead of schedule, I would almost say.
You know, everyone was skeptical of bringing Will Muschamp in, especially after it seemed like South Carolina, when they were looking for a coach, they got the news out there nice and early in case any big fish wanted to come to Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
And they get Will Muschamp, and admittedly a bit of a letdown. To his credit, though, I feel like he's acknowledged some of the shortcomings in his stay at Florida.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who's too proud for his own good. He's intense.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm trying to be optimistic here. I'm more optimistic. I'm with you. I think they're ahead of schedule. He went from 3 to 6 wins in his first year, so there's something to hang your hat on, Dan.
Here's a retroactive pick that's not an actual pick for our Fantasy Things draft. And Jake Bentley should have been in high school last year. Jake Bentley should have been. That was the parenthetical in every single. Let's talk about South Carolina in the offseason. Jake Bentley was pretty good to finish out the season. And here's the thing. He should have been in high school. Skip his senior year to enroll. So that was always sort of fun. But yes.
This wasn't a good team last year.
I thought they got
better.
They lost 3 or 4 to lose the season, but they had a stretch in there. They're like late October, early November. They beat Tennessee. They beat Mizzou. They beat I think America's independent team, the UMass Minutemen.
That's right. Of course,
obviously. And they showed enough. And yes, they got killed against Clemson. That was going to happen. Clemson won the national championship. But I think they showed enough that if South Carolina can put out consistently just an above average offense, and they're certainly still so thin because recruiting was left so bare by the time Will Muschamp got there, that if they keep bringing in talent defensively, they are going to be a team that can win 8-9 games a year, which is great.
I don't think it happens this year.
Not this year. No, not this year. But I'm saying the trajectory is such
Yeah, okay.
that they can win 8-9 a year.
Yeah, they will improve. I don't know how much offensively, but the lineup front's almost entirely back, which is a decent starting point. Jake Bentley, I think, was a marginal improvement when he came in at quarterback. He's only going to get better. He's still very young. Defensively, they should have a decent enough secondary. The front could be an issue. Last year's run defense, a bit of a tire fire.
Yep.
But I feel like there is good momentum there.
Okay.
So realistically, what's the ceiling? Is 7 wins the ceiling?
Probably.
It's a tough schedule for a team that's still building.
Who is the best at the moment? Who is the best quarterback in the SEC East?
Jacob Eason.
You would have...
Got to be Jacob Eason.
He was not good.
Who was better?
He had the end of the Tennessee game was one thing, but everything else, right now,
it's got to be Jacob Eason.
It could be Bentley.
No. It's 100% Jacob Eason.
It's not. Okay, so it's not Steven Johnson. It's not Kyle Shermer. We know that. Kentucky and Vandy.
No.
And that's fine. Whatever. We, Felipe Franks, whoever starts at Florida, whoever starts at Tennessee could be the best quarterback. Whatever. We don't know. I'm not nearly as high on Jacob Eason as you are. And
I'm not saying I'm high on him. I'm saying, what are my choices here? Of the 6 choices, if we get Malik Zai-Era from 2015, he's the answer. I haven't talked to anybody yet who's
now walking through that door, Ty.
No one's told me yet that we're going to see that version of Zai-Era. So the default answer has to be Eason.
Ooh, see, I think right now, given what we saw last year and given what we know about everybody's potential, and I don't know what Eason's potential is now after last year. That's just where I'm at. And hopefully I'm wrong. Whatever. Drew Lock and Jake Bentley could be that name by the end of the year. No,
it's Eason.
Ty, I'm planting this flag.
All right. You can die on that hill if you want, but
yeah, I know.
The answer is Jacob Eason.
Oh,
we've got 2 teams left here.
Yeah.
In the SEC East. We've got Vandy and we've got Kentucky. Which one do you feel better about?
Let's go to the Sea of Blue. Let's go Kentucky.
Okay.
Which I believe is our pal Ryan Nanny mentioned this on the live show. It's his pick to win the East because it's the most chaotic.
7-6 last year.
Return a ton.
Some news came out of Kentucky that Dorian Baker, their wide receiver, recently suffered an ankle fracture and dislocation.
Oh,
which is not good. Requires surgery. He's going to be out for a while. I do have a dude alert. Whoa, 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 it's a dude alert. Talk about my boy Benny Snell, Dan.
Okay.
Benny Snell, solid running back, 13 touchdowns, almost 1,100 yards last year as a freshman. He's the focal point of the offense, Dan. So I've been workshopping a few
here we go.
Slogans. I didn't find a whole lot here in the range of options, but I like Mach Schnell. A little bit of a German spin on it. In German, Mach Schnell means to go faster, make it quick.
Okay. If you need that colon, if you need that parentheses, if you need that dash, that hyphen, I'm not with it.
Mach Schnell.
Okay. Give me number 2.
No, that's it. That's it. I thought about Snell hell, but that's cheesy. I want a real joke, a real slogan, a real pun that we can go with.
What about Benny and the Jets?
Nah.
Because turning on the Jets.
Mach Schnell. We're cultured on this show. We got to go German.
Snell the Roses? No, they can't really go to the Rose Bowl.
They can't.
All right.
Their run defense was a disaster last year. Secondary is okay. They bring
Secondary's okay. They've got really good corners.
Most of the front seven's back. Hopefully they're going to improve because there is some turnover in the secondary that they're going to have to contend with. But I like Kentucky. I feel like they're a fringe bowl team. That's the way I feel. 6 wins, 6-6.
Screw that, 8-4.
Whoa.
How about that?
Whoa.
You want to talk about liking Benny Snell?
Whoa.
There are seniors everywhere on this team, Ty. How about that? 8-4. They don't have much early on in the season. They host Florida September 23rd. They go to Mississippi State, to Starkville. I mean, the cross division games they have Ole Miss and Mississippi State. That's pretty good.
It's doable.
That's pretty good as for cross divisional games. They have Louisville at home. They beat last year. They go to Georgia and to Vandy in consecutive weeks. Those are going to be 2 relatively tough defensive matchups, but I like the
wow.
I think it's raining men in Kentucky. How about that?
That's
Ty?
a very weird thing to say, but okay.
I don't know, because just there's a lot of seniors. There's a lot of upperclassmen. So
Okay.
I'm rolling 8-4.
I'm going to go 6-6.
Whatever, Ty. Whatever.
And that brings us to our final team, Vanderbilt.
Yes.
The Doors, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Would you believe me if I told you that we're in year 4 of Derek Mason at Vandy?
Wow, time flies. Time does fly.
Year 4 of Derek Mason at Vandy. It was rocky in the beginning. Last year, we started getting twinges of like, wow, this guy can coach. Or at a minimum, wow, these guys really like this guy. They're playing for him. They're fighting for him. And I'll give him this. If you heard him at SEC Media Days, he is damn confident.
Yeah.
He's feeling pretty good about the direction of this program. Look, he's got some experience on the line coming back. Their best lineman's gone, but some experience coming back. Kyle Shermer back at quarterback. Ralph Webb somehow back at running back.
Could set the all-time SEC rushing record. He and Nick Chubb are both pretty close.
Feels like he's in that John Stocco category of guys who never graduate.
Yes.
Caleb Scott is an exciting name out wide. I think the front and back of their defense should be fine. Linebacking needs to be pretty much retooled. But as a whole, should be a pretty good defense. They were a top 40 unit last year, a top 20 team inside the red zone. Derek Mason's done a good job coaching up that defense. So I don't know what the ceiling is here. I don't know if this is a bowl team again. I could see him 5-7, 6-6, somewhere in that range. But I think as a whole, good things are happening at Vanderbilt. And a guy like Derek Mason has plenty of wiggle room. It's not like they're going to get rid of this guy. I think they got a steal with bringing him over from Stanford.
Do you know who basically had an ideal stat line last year within the SEC East to Kyle Shermer? It's your beloved.
You're going to tell me Jacob Eason.
It's your beloved. If Vandy, and listen, losing Zach Cunningham is crazy huge. That's nothing you want to deal with as a defense. He was such just an incredible playmaker. But if that defense, once again, and we're talking about men, Ty, we are talking about reigning men on this Vandy defense, upperclassmen everywhere. Offensively, if they are okay, I mean, they hung with pretty much everybody last year, right? Other than, I know they sort of let loose. They got killed by Georgia Tech, but they hung against good teams. They hung with Auburn. I think that was like a 22-16 type game. If their defense is just, it's all right, or excuse me, the offense is just all right, Kyle Shermer is a little bit better than he was last year. And what we know Derek Mason can put on the field defensively, I don't know. It's a bowl team at the very least, Ty.
All right. I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
They also like NC State in their bowl game last year, which is fine. Whatever. I like this. I like that the lower class, which is a bad term for it, but I like that the final tier of the SEC has gotten so much better. I like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's always a solid conference, right? But the knock on the SEC in years past,
I don't know about the middle class, but yeah,
the knock on the SEC though in years past has always been that the bottom. The bottom is really low. It's a top heavy conference. And that was fair criticism. I feel like the bottom has really come up here. It's a lot higher floor in 2017 than in some years past, which is why I'm excited about the SEC.
They weirdly have sort of flipped with the Pac-12 in that way.
Yeah, totally.
Where the Pac-12, I mean, the quarterback situation in the Pac-12 is very good this year, but beyond that, it's a very top-heavy conference. In years past, it was like, wow, every week, they have all these like 6-6, 8-4 teams, whatever, in the Pac-12 South. Then you got Stanford and Oregon in the North. Like, it seemed like that was the calling card of the Pac-12. And now this year, quarterback dependent, it looks like the SEC is in a better place for TV entertainment, Ty. And that is a good thing as far as we are concerned.
Speaking of entertainment, let's put a bow
TV
on our 2017 SEC preview. Let's throw it over to the boys at SiriusXM.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. SiriusXM, the solid verbal 888-999-1010. Give us a call on the Dave Davis Dental Hotline. We're talking SEC
Bambo.
Can anyone touch Nick Saban in Alabama? Is there anything above a dynasty? Give us a call. We want to talk to you. Will the guy they call Coach O turn that LSU O into offense? Huge question. No doubt about it. Is this a make or break year for Auburn, and how's that new quarterback gonna be? Only time will tell, that's for sure. And what about Georgia? Can they get an offense going there in Athens? Gotta wonder about that. Let's go to the phones. Paul in Nashville, what's going on?
Yeah, first time, long time, and I just want to say big fan, and Alabama doesn't have a dynasty. They have a super dynasty. I'll hang up and listen to your response.
Great call there, Paul. Now that's what we're looking for in a caller. Great take at the top of the hour. And hey, you know what? What about Florida? Are we writing off the Gators and Jim McElwain a little too soon? That just might be the case. Speaking of Knox, can Butch Jones get it going there in Knoxville? He's taken some hits, but don't give up on the Vols just yet. How about this question? What do we make of Brett Bielema down there in Arkansas? Is this the year the Hogs put it together with those big uglies down there? Big question, no doubt about it. Is there a case for Ole Miss? Gotta hand it to Hugh Freeze. His loss is a big blow. Can they sneak up on someone? Gonna be a rock hard season for those Rebels, I'll say that right now. And hey, what about Kentucky, Vandy, South Kakalaki? Mississippi State doesn't get better than SEC.
Bambo.
I think not. And once again, 888-999-1010. Give us a call on the Dave Davis Dental Hotline. And because you requested it, and because he sounds like a delightful vacation, French Montana.
French Montana. I notice a theme there.
So you really never heard of French Montana?
I've never heard of I've heard of actual Montana, and I've heard of French, but never the two concatenated together.
Okay. Oh my God. What was that word, Ty?
Concatenate.
Holy hell, Ty. And you went to a state school just like I did. French Montana. He is Moroccan American.
Okay.
He moved to the United States when he was 13 years old. He is the founder of Coke Boys Records, predecessor Cocaine City Records.
Oh, great.
2012, he signed a joint venture recording deal with Bad Boys and the Maybach Music Group. His breakthrough hit, Ty, Choppa Choppa Down.
Okay.
I think we've learned enough.
Not familiar, yeah.
He's 32 years old, and he is associated with the following acts, Ty. Puff Daddy, Rick Ross, Max B, Fabulous, Juicy J, Fat Joe, Harry Fraud, Lil Durk, Chinks, and DJ Khaled.
French Montana, huh?
French Montana. And there is Kardashian, it looks like. Okay, so he dated Khloe Kardashian. This is all from his Wikipedia page.
Wow, okay, you're really diving in there. Thank you.
So there's a music video thing. There's a character named DJ Mustard.
DJ
Mustard. I'm learning so much.
How bad are you as a DJ if you go with DJ Mustard?
I am. Oh, just me personally. I'm with it. I like that because here's the thing: as DJ
you
Mustard,
would be with
Ty,
a condiment, yeah.
No, well, here's the thing: you want to go smooth, you want to go sweet, you want to go spicy, you want to go dark with your music.
You've got options with Mustard.
DJ Mustard's versatile.
DJ Ketchup's probably a bridge too far for you, but I digress.
Oh, never ever. By the way, did you see the pictures of our pal Adam Amin DJing?
Oh yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. I have questions about that. When we see him next, I need to talk.
Yeah.
We need to talk about that, yeah.
Fair enough. All right, what do people need to know? The shirts are only this week. We're sending them out in early to mid-September.
That's correct, yeah. So get your orders in solidverbal.com/store, or you can go to solidverbal.com and see a link in the top menu bar up there. If you did order a shirt, we're going to send out a confirmation email because some folks have accidentally entered the incorrect shipping information into PayPal.
PayPal still, whenever I try to order something through PayPal, is like, oh, here, $39.50 Good Pasture Road in Eugene, Oregon. Yes, that's still good. I'm like, what are you doing, PayPal?
Yeah.
I do every time I update it. Come on, people.
If you sent us an email in a cold panic because a wrong address was in there, we will take care of that. We will also send out a confirmation email. So if you ordered a shirt, you've got a couple more days. To do that, if you already ordered, you'll be getting a confirmation email to make sure that we've got the proper shipping information. And the only other thing that I have to add is stay tuned for more info on the Pick'em pool. I am working as quickly, as hard, as intensely as I can to try and find a new home for that pool. But honestly, Yahoo, they put the screws to us.
Oath Sports.
Whoa. Do my best. I don't know.
I have one more French Montana fact.
Oh, great.
So this is from the references section of his Wikipedia page. And I will note that it is reference number 5. And this is an Us Weekly headline about French Montana that was referenced. French Montana says he's not dating Khloe Kardashian for fame, recalls getting shot in head. There's a lot of story.
There's a lot of action right there.
I hope he's okay. I hope his health is all right.
On that lighthearted note,
woof,
we will be back to talk about our remaining Power 5 teams and Notre Dame on Sunday. They'll be recording tomorrow. So hopefully nothing big happens between now and the end of the week. We will talk to you in a few short days. In the meantime, stay solid.
Peace.
Don't forget to check out our friends over at propercloth.com/solid. Do it today. Enter the gift code SOLID. Save $20 on your first custom fitted shirt. It's never been easier thanks to Proper Cloth.